Glancing out at my garden, I was happy to see, although it was still very cold, the sun had decided to show its face. Time to get some work done, I thought to myself. Stepping into my garden, I couldn't help but notice how the peonies had already erupted in flames of green leaf. How quick they've grown, and so I took a moment to appreciate the progression of spring since Imbolc. Being the second half of February, we'd now entered into the solar term of rainwater. The past few days had indeed been abundant in rainfall. However, in the shade of my little garden house, I had decided, in the spirit of Imbolc, to give this little space a new lease of life. Starting with clearing out items that no longer served me. I couldn't believe in a box were roller skates from my early childhood. They were indeed cute, but I really wouldn't be needing them anymore, so time to give them the chance to be adored by some other little girl. However, what I did find interesting in there was a multitude of music sheets from my great-grandfather, who loved to play the piano. I may take some inspiration from these for my garden house transformation, I thought. With plans to make over the little house, I cleared the ground of some of the dead leaves around my peonies which had been left since autumn, allowing it to clear and cleanse my mind for the task ahead. I then propped open the garden house door with my sweet Mr. Squirrel, who would assist me in keeping guard and watching over the entrance during this windy season. Piece by piece, I cleared the space of the final items I hadn't yet removed the past few days, many of which were branches and other natural items I had foraged. And also some Imbolc items I'd used in my squirrel offering space. I always like to thank the squirrels for their accompaniment and all they've taught me on my journey. Unfortunately, I hadn't seen them these past 2 weeks. Perhaps they'd just been sleeping a few extra days, or had decided to stay in their little beds due to the stormy weather. Not to worry though, I'm sure we'll see them again soon enough. I continued clearing the little house, taking a last look at a painting my mother had done when I was a child. In Chinese mythology, the dragon represents power, strength, and good luck. It is a benevolent creature, and this was one of my mother's inspirations to teach us to always treat others with kindness and love. Removing the old dusty coverings on the windows was such a cathartic experience. The stagnant energy was shifting, and with everything out of the house, I started physically cleaning the place, utilizing an old toothbrush to get at some of the harder to reach areas. Now time to cleanse the space. Having neglected this little house for quite a while, it definitely needed a spiritual cleansing. Nothing too elaborate though, just a sprinkle of salt water, a space cleansing chant, and some bells. This old shelf needed a coat of paint. I thought I'd try this old spray paint we had in the shed. However, it was of little use, and so I used this gold paint I'd bought for a couple of quid during the winter season. It had been a great coat for the solar pinecone wreath I'd made at the solstice, and I thought it would be a nice addition to invoke the energies of success and prosperity into my little house. Next, I measured the size of the windows in preparation for the creation of the coverings, and when the day was almost over and the newly painted shelves dry, I brought it into my space. I noticed one of the shelves wasn't level and made a mental note to rectify it in the morning. It rained the next day. Stuck indoors, I had found some material from an old dress that I had previously used to create my Biddy doll at Imog. With some still left over, I thought I'd try to make a couple of window coverings. Next, I made a new herb rack for the space. Using some jute string I'd found for only a quid in Poundland, I bound together 5 twigs in the shape of a pentagram. Then, using a single-finger knotting method I somehow figured out as a child, I created thicker strands to create the hanging loop. Next, it was time to craft a spell bottle for the centre of the herb rack. The spell was complete. I attached it to the herb rack and prepared some sage for drying. With that complete, it was outside again to check if the stick I had found previously fit across the width of my space. It wasn't a straight stick by any means, but I liked the crookedness to it. Yay! It did indeed fit well. Yay! All that needed to be done now was cut off the ends, smooth off any protruding bumps, and loop on my curtains. I wanted to bring more white into my space, invoking more light, purity, and authenticity. With this thin veil, I would also be strengthening my connection to the spirit world. I'd already added white and gold to my space. Now for a splash of green. The colour of the earth and our heart chakra to aid in all forms of growth. And now a happy dance to bring in good energies. I better not jump too much though. I might break the boards. With my colour scheme of white, gold, green, and an additional earthy brown in mind, I'd purchased a few thrifty items the past week. First, this gorgeous white porcelain jardiniere with strawberries on. We do have some strawberries growing in our garden. So far, we haven't had that much luck with them though, but I do love the regal look of this pot. I also got this cute little birdcage light. The little house can get quite dark, so this will hopefully help brighten the place up a little. Well, after I get a new battery for it. I love this display case of lentils, beans, and wheat. These will bring much luck, aid in banishing negative energies, and are also associated with the non-physical. As soon as I laid my eyes on it, I knew I just had to have this cute pile of mini pots to display some sweet little seasonal foraged finds. I was very lucky to come across this candelabra. It goes with the aesthetics of my space perfectly and has these gorgeous little beads that for me evoke a feeling of clarity. finally, I got this gorgeous mint green heart box. I love its elegance, it's very symbolic of the heart chakra, and I think I'm going to begin with keeping a couple of ritual chalk sticks in there for easy access. I didn't want to spend too much money on items that would be kept outdoors, and so I was very lucky to have been able to thrift these items at a bargain price. So, how much did everything cost? Well, the jardiniere was £1, the birdcage £1, the bean box £1, the pots also £1, the candelabra £2, and the heart box £1, making a total of just £7. What a bargain! Yay! Recently, on one of my trips to the woods, I had picked up a whole bunch of alder cones, or as I like to call them, squirrel's tails. The alder is very dear to me, and I shall be working more with this tree this year. I filled up my jar and stuck a label I had designed and printed on my computer. It is spring after all. Let's keep things organised. There was only enough material to make one window cover, and I also didn't have a stick right to hang it, so that will have to wait till a future date. Having entered the year of the tiger, I wanted to bring more tiger energy into my space. Under my bed, I had found this little sweetie that I had bought many years ago in a little Chinese shop over in Sheffield. I felt he would be much at home under my mother's Chinese lantern, and so set out to make a hanging platform for him to rest and guard this space. In Chinese mythology, the tiger is the guard at the heavenly court of the Jade Emperor. He's a great protector who bears the symbol of king on his forehead, and as the king of beasts, he holds very powerful energy. I created the stand with 3 twigs and a base of willow as a nod to my path and flexibility to adapt and flow with all situations. The willow tree is one of my favourite trees to work with. It holds a very special place in my heart. To me, a tree of true strength, with so much to give and learn from. In weaving the base, I didn't have a particular symbol or path in mind. Instead, I followed my intuition, weaving back and forth, creating my own unique path. With the hanging platform complete, this little tiger of mine will bring more prosperity to my space and serve to ward off evil spirits. Ivy has protective and healing qualities. Adding them to my space brings an extra touch of green and tranquility. I wove 3 pieces, one through the bars of the birdcage lamp, and one either side of my thin veil. With that, for now, my space is complete, and so time for rest and renewal.
The moon, she dances like the waves on the shore, making circles like the waves on the shore.